Hey guys, welcome back to this channel, and today I'm going to be talking to you about The Great Gatsby and specifically the characters. Now, characters are the main individuals that we tend to focus on in our essays because of course they're the people that we connect with most profoundly. In this video I'll go through some of the big ideas related to the key characters and also talk to you a little bit about their symbolic resonance.
So let's begin with Nick Carraway. So he is our narrator. He's the central character. He tells us the story. He is an outsider. He's looking in. He provides this kind of observational position, really, within the novel. He's not the hero, but he is a lens. He is a lens through which we see everything. Now, he considers himself to be honest and non-judgmental, but as readers, we notice that he kind of absorbs this chaos around him. He does provide kind of opinion, which once you're into the world of opinion, you're very much not objective anymore. So there is an inherent kind of fallacy within the narrator of Nick Carraway. And Nick kind of stands halfway between this wealthy elite and the working classes. And his role as an observer gives the story a kind of reflective tone as he aims to guide the moral compass. He's the one who's kind of opining on kind of good versus evil in the key events of the novel. Now, Jay Gatsby, real name Jay Gatz, James Gatz, the representation of kind of ambition in the novel. He was born poor, he's a self-made millionaire, he reinvents himself, even down to his name. And this is a very important idea in America, this idea that, you can become whoever you want to be. But his dream isn't wealth. It's Daisy. The wealth comes as a kind of side point to this, and every decision that he makes is meant to win her back. Ultimately, he symbolizes hope, but also the illusion of the American dream. The idea that anyone can reinvent themselves, but unfortunately, quite often that dream is built on fantasy. And, all of the lavish parties that he throws ultimately lead to no connection, no meaningful connection. We know, of course, he ends the novel dead. Nobody turns up to his funeral. Now, just thinking about his kind of strengths and his flaws, he's very hopeful, he's determined, he's loyal. He absolutely believes, he believes in his dream, and we know that obviously through that symbol of the green light that exists right through the novella. But that's also his downfall because he can be naive, he can be idealistic, he can be deceptive. And ultimately, he idealizes Daisy to the point where no one else can match her. And ultimately, that's what ends up leading to his downfall. Now, on the subject of Daisy, obviously she's Nick's cousin. She's Gatsby's love interest. She's often misunderstood. She's obviously beautiful and enchanting, but very passive. What I mean by passive is very kind of laid back. She kind of lets things occur around her. She doesn't seem to have much drive. She doesn't seem to have much motivation. She represents a kind of seductive promise of wealth and class, and that's what she appears to Gatsby as. To her, to him, she is a symbol of everything that he wants. But ultimately, she ends up choosing this life of comfort, this life of safety. And she chooses that over the kind of purer thing, which would be love. Because, of course, when we're thinking about her husband, Tom Buchanan, he is the embodiment. He's the embodiment of dominance, and particularly a kind of dominance that comes from old money. He sees the world as his property, his playground, and whether that's social status or women or even truth itself, he wants to dominate and control. He holds racist viewpoints. He's not a very likable character. He's violent towards women as well. And he has this affair with Myrtle Wilson. But despite this hypocrisy and despite this being quite a terrible individual, ultimately he's protected by his wealth. He ends the novel untouched by any consequence at all. Now, Jordan Baker seems obviously to be somewhat of a minor character, but she stands out as a very kind of modern and very independent woman. In many ways, she acts as a kind of foil to Daisy, who is very much not independent. She's confident, she's self-sufficient, but she's also kind of distant emotionally and a little bit dishonest, particularly in regards to Nick. Nick is both fascinated and also off-put by her. And ultimately, her role in the novel is to reflect new ideas of social freedom, particularly for women. Now, Myrtle and George Wilson, who I'm kind of bringing together here because they are a married couple. Now, Myrtle is desperate to kind of climb the social ladder. Her initial way of doing this is through sex. And of course, she has this relationship with Tom. She wants to escape this lower class life. Tom gives her that taste of what life could be, and she's completely drawn into this and infatuated with it. Meanwhile, back at home, her husband represents the kind of working class um, life, the working class American dream, even, because that too falls apart. He does everything he's supposed to. He has his business that he runs. He has his wife. He works day in, day out. But ultimately, it's torn apart by the richer and higher echelons of society. They have no money to protect them. Okay, where Tom has the money to protect himself from the consequences, they do not. And ultimately, they both end the novel dead. So each of the characters have kind of symbolic importance. Gatsby represents the American dream. Daisy is about wealth and illusion. Tom is about old money. Nick is that moral reflection. Jordan is that modern cynicism. And Myrtle and George are those crossed dreams. And ultimately, if we pull these all together, what Fitzgerald is doing is critiquing society, okay? Particularly the myth that wealth brings happiness and that your dreams can always be achieved. So it's worth remembering that these characters aren't just people. They're symbols of ambition and illusion and privilege and the consequences of incorrect actions.
If you enjoyed this video, firstly, subscribe to catch up with more great content that we're producing. Secondly, hit the link in the description to head over to my resources. They are our incredible bespoke study notes written just for students like yourself who are looking to get ahead. And last but not least, for the A-level students, we do run a weekly live stream with one of our excellent A-level teachers. You can find out more information by hitting the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching.